Kabul is still reeling from the deadly attacks of Thursday. Lots of people still in shock here. And let me tell you, nobody here thinks that it is over now. They think that this is just the beginning of another cycle of deadly violence. And I have to say that analysis seems pretty accurate here. The city is on high alert in case there are further attacks. And late into last night, there were other detonations and sustained gunfire as well on the streets. We could hear one very loud blast around midnight Kabul time, which the Taliban has since said was a US controlled explosion detonating ammunition. Extremely loud, shook doors and windows throughout the city. Very chaotic scenes continued into last night, and there are fears that there could be more attacks as we go forward today. So people are being very cautious around places where lots of people might gather, any public buildings, which could be potential hotspots for further attacks. Here, the hospitals were absolutely inundated with people. Dozens and dozens of people coming in injured, many of them dying on arrival. So the official death toll stands at 60 Afghan civilians. That could rise much higher. Afghans were already saying it seems much higher than that to them. So, this is a city that's used to deadly violence, but that was a very shocking day and night, even by Kabul standards, and they're bracing for more.
And Catherine, on top of that chaos and the risk of further violence that you just described there, thousands of people are still waiting to be evacuated. What does this mean for those efforts?
Well, that is a huge question because the US says it intends to carry on with these military evacuations and get people out as soon as possible. But already the security was incredibly difficult down there at the airport. And now we can only imagine it's going to be even tighter. So perhaps the pace will have to slow up somewhat. I can hear planes in the sky again behind me now this morning. Not sure whether they're coming in or coming out at this stage, but that there is activity in the airspace above Kabul. And whether those evacuations will be able to continue apace is a very big question, because lots of Western nations, NATO allies of the US, which had been in the airport, were looking basically to wrap up their missions now and get out and leave it to the US forces. The US forces have been very much concentrating on trying to secure that airport. Clearly it wasn't enough. And there were just hordes and hordes of people still in the streets around the airport yesterday afternoon when that bomb went off. And it's very difficult, even with the US coordinating with its former enemies, the Taliban, to try and stop people coming into that area. There were still large crowds of people present at the site. So big questions about how the evacuations can continue, even though the US insists that it is carrying on with that mission.